So, thank you. Not very far from here, 17 years ago, on this day, at 7:37, the first bomb exploded. In 3 short minutes, 10 bombs went off, killing 192 people, wounding more than 1,800 people. I remember the pictures of Atocha station, the gaping holes in commuter trains, leaving holes in people's lives, holes in the lives of families and communities. The deadliest terrorist attack in Spanish history. And Spain has a long history of facing terrorists, facing ETA and other terrorist movements. The deadliest attack on the continent of Europe. Some say 11M was Europe's 9/11. Ever since then, we meet on this day. We meet to remember victims from all over Europe, killed or injured in terrorist attacks all over the world. Madrid was not the only attack, the first attack, or the last attack, as you know only too well. This day is not only a day of remembrance, it's a day of support for the community of victims, because you are a community of faith, brought together by suffering, bound together by a common purpose, to help each other, to find strength together, to defend your rights and prevent radicalization and terrorism. Every year, a theme guides our work, such as mental support, resilience, standing together, growing stronger together, and this year, always united. To say Corona may keep us apart, but cannot divide us. Today is also a day of solidarity, a day for Europe to show you are not alone. We support you as Commission, as society, and as a union. Terrorist attacks are aimed against all of us, against people. People enjoying a final drink before lockdown in Vienna, smoking in Sisha Lounge in Hanau, going to church in Nice, against a teacher educating children about the freedom of expression, Samuel Paty. These are attacks on our values and our way of life, attacks on society. But you are the ones who pay the price. These attacks destroy your lives and disrupt society. So as society, we must prevent further attacks, and we must do what we can to help you rebuild your lives, so we can rebuild trust in society. We must uphold your rights, the rights that you have in Europe as victims of terrorism, the right to specialized support in case of an attack, including medical aid, psychological aid, and legal advice, as soon as necessary, as long as necessary. It's not always easy for you to exercise these rights. That's why, in the last year, the Commission launched several important initiatives to help member states to support and protect victims of crimes and terrorism. A new strategy of victims' rights, the EU Centre of Expertise for Victims of Terrorism, a new EU handbook on victims of terrorism, the first Commission coordinator on victims' rights, she will speak later today, the EU Victims' Rights Platform, bringing together for the first time all relevant actors on victims' rights, including victims of terrorism. We cannot talk about victims without victims. That's why we organize this day together with you. And that's why I want to hear your voices. I want to make sure our EU rules to fight and prevent terrorism and protect your rights are up to date. Soon I will launch a public consultation on the evaluation of the Directive on Combating Terrorism. I invite you all to take part, so you can help make sure future EU rules reflect your rights. Today we also show our determination to counter terrorism, so that others do not have to go through what you go through. Last year again, terrorist attacks took place on European soil, 10 in France, 4 in the UK, 3 in Germany, and 1 in Austria, a member state until now spared by terrorism. And the victims come from all over Europe. It's hard for me or many Europeans to put ourselves in your shoes. We don't know what it's like to suffer an attack or lose a loved one in this way. But many Europeans fear one day they too could be there at the wrong place and wrong time. We are not all victims, but we are all targets. So we must fight terrorism together. Islamist terror is a present threat. Far-right terrorism is on the rise. Corona conspiracy theories are inspiring political violence. New threats are on the horizon. Last December, I launched a new counter-terrorism agenda with proposals that aim to boost European police cooperation and information exchange, make it more difficult for foreign fighters to enter Europe undetected, deny terrorists access to deadly firearms, protect people in public spaces like churches, mosques, synagogues, stadiums, and public transports. Sometimes simple measures save lives. A reinforced door in a synagogue in Halle prevented terrorists from making many more victims. We must counter terrorism offline and online. There are very poisonous extremist groups active online. Radicalization, young people, and spreading horrific images and hate speech between countries and across borders. We now finally have a political agreement to block online terrorist propaganda, to stop terrorist recruiting online, posting their attacks online. Member states will now be able to order providers in other member states directly to take down terrorist propaganda within 1 hour. We also continue to work with internet companies to take down terrorist content voluntarily. Besides the strong arm of law enforcement, we need the patient work of prevention, and we need you. Today is a day for bearing witness. Shirley Zapf, Antonio Miguel Utrera, Tor Inge Kristoffersen, Deborah Yu. Today we will hear your voices. Some of you tell your stories for the very first time. I have so much respect for your courage, strength, and dignity. And I admire also the bravery of the first responders, doctors and nurses, police, emergency service, like Dr. Catherine Terry, who are first on the scene, first to support victims. Your stories, your experience, are a warning and an inspiration, an antidote for radicalization. Some of you talk with terrorist offenders to help them to renounce violence and to reintegrate when they return to society after their sentence, like in the Healing Social Wounds project in Italy, or in the Basque country, as described in the book Los Hoyos del Otros. Many of you go to schools to share your experience and tell your stories to the young generation. It's difficult to get through to teenagers, but we know your stories get through. One student told a survivor of the Bataclan attack, "When I have a son and we discuss the 13th of November attacks, I will talk about you because I saw you." You show young people that their violence wins, everybody loses. Your efforts mean people not radicalized, attacks not made, lives not lost. We may never know how many, but I'm sure it's true. You take the terrible experience you have have had and use it for good. That shows immense courage and resilience and helps to keep Europe safe. And so I have not come here today to tell you what Europe is doing for you. I have come to thank you for what you are doing for Europe. I thank you all for joining us today, in person and online. I thank the Radicalization Awareness Network and the Working Group of Victims of Terrorism for all you are doing to support victims and to prevent terrorism. And I thank Ana Rodriguez Cordero and Philippe Vanstenkist for organizing the event. You have made the event about victims and for victims. And I want to thank all the victims for speaking out today. Thank you for your strength. Thank you for reminding us why our work is so important. Thank you.